contribute to building the communities back up? What is something that you can give me for like inspiration to help the city overall? Because I hear you talking, it's inspiring me to say this is what the city needs, and it's showing me that I'm doing the right thing.
So what I want you to do is acquire as many houses as you can as quickly as possible, fix them up as quickly as possible, and get rich. That's what I want you to do, is because there is. I mean, the property values are growing so rapidly. But I will say this, I think in a way you'll understand, folks who look like you 10 years ago were not the ones buying the houses and getting rich on the appreciation, right? And this is what I love, is that we have more and more folks based in the neighborhood who are looking across the street saying, why can't I fix that up myself? And you don't come back any faster than people who have roots in the neighborhood, committed to the neighborhood. So call me when you make your first million and take me to lunch.
I got you. I'm gonna make sure the city know that.
You had mentioned homeless population and no tent cities and things like that. I'm from Grand Rapids. Obviously not the size of Detroit, but we do have panhandling, homeless problems and things like that. What did you do that put into those tent cities?
So I could write a book on this, but let me start with this. If you look at why are there tent cities across America? Here's how affordable housing works. If you're not in it, I can probably explain it to you pretty simply. If it costs you X amount of square foot to build an apartment, and you need to rent it out at $1,200 a month to make money, but people of low income can only afford $800 a month, somebody's got to pay that $400 a month. Otherwise, you don't get folks with low income. Basically, there's a federal tax credit system that essentially pays 70% of your construction costs, and you promise for 30 years to rent at that lower level. And that's the way affordable housing is built all across the country. What's happened is that 30 years runs out, and what happened in Brooklyn, what happened in DC, what happened in Austin, is the owner says, I got a great asset here. They kick the low-income senior citizens. They're living there 20, 25 years out because they no longer have an obligation. They flip it to market rate, and they make a whole lot of money. And now all these folks are being pushed to the street, and that starts to put pressure on a system that was probably strained anyway, especially if rents are rising. So we pulled out a list of all of the apartment buildings that were coming due on the 30-year, starting in 2014. So far, we've had 8,000 housing units in the city of Detroit where the federal tax credits expired. All 8,000 signed up for another 30 or 40 years. And they did because I sat down with them one at a time. And I said, I know market rate sounds good to you, but I have this thing where we have got the highest property tax rate in America at 85 mils. And I offset that by giving people abatements, which is how all these deals work. But if you kick the low-income people out, there will be zero assistance. And they pencil out their numbers, and they say, holy shit, can I do a 30-year re-up? And it worked out, and we treated them well. And now people have gotten into it, so we don't have anybody being pushed out. We went and built another 2,000 affordable units. We built a lot of permanent supportive housing. This whole idea that you take somebody off the street at 6 o'clock at night, stick them in a shelter for the night, kick them out at 8 in the morning and think their lives are gonna get better is ridiculous. So I cut the shelters way down and built what we call permanent supportive housing. Most of these folks on the street have got mental health issues, they've got addiction issues, they've got something serious going on in their lives, which overnight at the shelter isn't helping. We move them into the permanent supportive housing sites with mental health support. There's help doing a resume, help with job training, help with your addictions, and they're not on the street. And now it's the number of people who succeeded is great. And so if a tent goes up in our city, we have an Orange Gate have one, our homeless outreach team will be with you immediately and say, look, this is not a good choice in your life. What would you like? What can I do to help? And this is how you prevent it from happening, because once they get established, they are really tough. But we've got the most aggressive homeless prevention outreach going everywhere. And people from around the country, these mayors come in from Portland and DC, and they assume Detroit's poor, we got tent cities everywhere. But actually the right strategy prevents it. Yes?
Hi. David Kimbrough, actually a Detroiter,
Okay, where do you live?
Cultural Center.
Okay.
So you've already just touched on the millage at 85 mills.
Right.
What is the city doing as far as there's enough vacant land where we can get developers, but also cutting the red tape
Yeah.
and getting development spurred in the neighborhoods where we have pretty much 1 or 2 lots in the neighborhood? And second part of that is, as that continues growing, is the city looking at trying to roll back some of the villages?
So I am, so you might have read about this, but I propose a land value tax, which Lansing is thinking about right now. And here's the thing, you're paying 85 in Detroit. If you're in Warren or Southfield, you're probably about 72, 73. Grosse Pointe, you're about 70. We are not competitive. And so I want to whack the taxes on your improvements. Every building, anything you do, 14 mils. Now to make us competitive, so when you're deciding where to go, we're comparable to Dearborn, Warren, Southfield, Ferndale, and the like. But I gotta make that money out. And so we are proposing that we cut the mills on the improvements, but we double the tax on the land itself. Because there is a massive amount of vacant property. I've got private speculators today own 30,000 residential parcels in this city. And do you know what the tax on a residential parcel of vacant land is? $30. That's the tax. I got 30,000 people who pay $30 a year. They don't ever cut it, they don't pick up the garbage, but it's a lottery ticket. If somebody wants to develop in that site, they'll get a whole lot of money. What's worse is we got all these abandoned apartments and other buildings. Well, you guys understand how this works. If the assessor declares your apartment building obsolete, the value of it's zero. All you're taxing is the underlying land. We've got 20-year abandoned apartments that they're paying $400 a year in taxes. They write their check every year and wait for the big day. I want to double all of those land taxes to offset it. So now you have more incentive to build on your property. Now, I don't know if $60 is going to be enough. I got one guy who owns 260 vacant lots spaced out strategically around the city. If I try to build anything, they get a deal with it, right? I want to make it a little more expensive for them to have to do that. The surface parking lots, Detroit has almost the most surface parking lot in the downtown area any place in the country. Why? There's very little value on the land, and so the best way to cash flow that parking lot is to park cars on it. You don't need to build on it. We're going to change that incentive. So we say to them, your tax on your parking lot's going to double, but if you build up, you got a 14 mil cut. Now you got a tax break. So I am hopeful to put that before the voters in Detroit. It would mean an average 17% property tax cut for every homeowner in this city because we're shifting it. It means if you got a scrapyard or a surface parking lot or vacant land, your taxes are going to go up. And so I'm hoping the legislature, we get it out of the House next week, and put it on the ballot in February. And so if we do it, it'll be Detroit's first